Oh, we'll just do hair then. Oh, ooh. We have different beverages tonight. Oh my God. It's been just a couple of weeks and Chris is on wine and not beer. Look at this. What kind of wine is that, Chris?
It's red.
For a split second, I thought you said it's bread, and I was like, what?
It's red
It's
wine.
red.
No, it came out of a jug. And it's
Oh, it was a jug?
No, I don't know. It's like it's got some name, John Wick or something like that. I can't.
John Wick.
Name. Crane Lake, better than Crane Lake.
Oh my God. I had a great conversation with Sandy Carlson about living room floor jug wine, like cheap jug wine at your parents' house. And that made me laugh so hard because that is my dad's go-to vino. But it's like a Carlo Rossi jug of Chardonnay.
Ernest and Giulio Gallo.
Yeah, one of these, and it's fine. It's great. It does the job. It's tasty enough, and it's a good price. Hey, mom and dad are in the house. We're just talking about jug wine.
Oh, hey, midnight.
Oh my God!
I didn't open a can midnight. I'm drinking a little glass of a little jelly jar of
a little jelly jar of red wine. He's on wine tonight, midnight. Can you believe it? Oh, it's so good to see Philip J. Curtis in the chat.
Midnight is going to some of the most interesting concerts. Stuff that I wouldn't necessarily expect Midnight to be into as a young fella. He's going to see some old school, Rod Stewart.
I know. Check it out. Midnight has been everywhere this summer. He's been up and down the West Coast doing readings with Chance. Have you seen some of these adorable and hilarious photos they've taken? I've been loving it. I've been traveling with them in spirit.
Me too. I wish I was there. They looked like they were having a great time out in California.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and yeah, Midnight has been going live at these different concerts. I've been rocking along with him. A few months back, I was, what was it? Was it Ziggy Marley? I popped into that live. It was delightful.
Yeah. Then he's going to some hip hop things, and then he turns right around and does Rod Stewart. It's like
Rod freaking Stewart, man. I love it. Well, that is just wonderful. It's so great to see our friends out there having a fabulous summer. We hope that all of you have had a fabulous summer as well. We have been doing all sorts of things. Having just amazing open mic nights, getting around, getting outside. Life is quite different from the way it was when we first started the stream back in March 2020, but we'll talk more about that in a few minutes.
It was a long time ago, children.
A long time ago. Wait, you need to be stroking your beard when you say that, Chris. It was a long time ago.
2020, as I recall.
In 2020.
Back in 20.
Back in 20.
During the big, the great unpleasantness.
The great unpleasantness. Yes. So, I mean, it's been a long time since we were all trapped inside. We've been getting out and about. We've had the open mic on a monthly basis, in person at Eco Evolution in South Norwalk for, now it's been a year. So, times are a-changing in all kinds of good ways.
On this program tonight, need to come out and do the open mic.
Yes, we are hoping that everybody who is within reasonable traveling distance or who is visiting the Northeast for a period of time, we would love to feature you or have you come and sign up. We just always have a blast, and it's become such a local thing. But it is 8:00, and it's time for our official welcome to FUMFA 134. Every single number over 100 just blows my mind every time, Chris.
I hear you. Anything over like 12
Well, no, it's really kind of it's really kind of crazy. I've been thinking a lot about just how many shows we've done and how many wonderful people we've gotten to hear read and people we've gotten to connect with even for the first time through this. It's been it's been a beautiful thing.
We're
But
inching up on 300. We're inching up on 300 readers.
oh my God, 300 individual readers across all the streams.
280 something readers over the past 3 and plus years on this little program here.
This little StreamYard thing.
Right, and that doesn't even count repeat people. Like we have a couple repeaters tonight,
Right.
But this is almost 300 distinct.
300 distinct individual readers over 3.5 years. That is truly incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That is so awesome. Let's just pat ourselves on the back. I'm just so proud. Yes. But well, and we really have to thank everyone out there who's been tuning in as well, and all of our friends and all of the amazing new people that we've met who have come on here to read with us. It's really made the last few years just so special and has grown to such an incredible community. But tonight we're super excited on FUMFA 134 to welcome to the stage the live stream stage. Beth Marie Reed, Lynne Heinzmann, and Antoinette Brim-Bell. So we are welcoming back Beth Marie Reed and Lynne Heinzmann, who are our fellow FUMFA alum colleagues. We are super excited to hear from them again. You can go back in our archive and see their feature readings that they shared with us within these last 3.5 years. I don't know exactly when.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful to have them back. It's great to see them. It always feels like a reunion when we get to have our FUMFA folks in here. And we are also incredibly honored and super excited to get to have Connecticut State Poet Laureate Antoinette Brim-Bell with us tonight.
I know that's big time. That's like celebrity time here.
Totally. And so we can't wait to have Antoinette grace our program and share her poems with us. It's going to be amazing. So please make sure you're sticking around until the end. Yes, and we are doing our summer reading remix format. So each reader will have their time to read, and then about 5 minutes of questions afterwards. We're not doing the big Q&A at the end on this show, so please do stick around for everyone. We will have Beth up first, and then Lynne, and then Antoinette. But Chris, tell everyone what we have coming up soon.
Yes, well, in a week from Saturday, or Friday, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say hello.
Yeah, I'm so confused. That's the 13th of August, which is today. No, the 25th of August, we're going to have our August in-person open mic at Eco Evolution. That's in South Norwalk, and you can get all that info on our Facebook page, and just pay attention, and you'll figure it all out. And we have some amazing featured performers there, including some fabulous musicians, including our friend Johnny. That's one N, Johnny.
One N, Johnny Maselli.
And Margie and Mary, the two sisters who sing like angels. I mean,
glorious harmonies.
Beautiful harmonies. And they're going to be playing some tunes. And then our old dear friend, FUMFA All-Star, Phil Lamos, driving all the way down from like Worcester, Mass, or wherever he lives.
Yep.
Drives down. This will be like his third or fourth time with us just over the summer.
He is such a rock star, coming down for community.
Kind of an unofficial feature because he stepped up, but this is an official feature.
Official feature.
I assume he's going to be reading from his long in the works novel that he's so close to finishing. We hope. Because we want to read the damn thing. So he's going to be there. And then, of course, we'll have the usual motley crew of musicians, poets, prose writers, magicians, comedians, interpretive dancers.
You can't miss it. You can't miss it, folks. You gotta come out. You gotta sign up. You gotta bring your friends. It's
The
become
blast.
such an amazing thing, and we are just loving it. Now, before we get to our readings, which we must do, I
Almost
would
here.
like to make
Any second now. Yes.
oh yes, we must make a quick little preview of an announcement here. So our announcement is that we're changing our frequency of the live stream. As I hinted at earlier, we've come a long way in the world since March 2020 when we began this as a way to stay in touch and share readings and have a lot of fun together on a weekly basis. And we kept it up on nearly a weekly basis, except for short vacations and open mic night weekends. But it's come time for change. And, and we're going to be switching things up a little bit. The open mic will still be in person every month at Eco Evolution, but the live stream will be going down to once per season. All right, don't be too shocked. Oh my God. Don't worry, because we're actually really excited about this because, as you've heard, we've had 300 amazing friends and special guests on here, and we're excited for them to write some new works, publish some new things, have some fresh news to tell us. We're going to be putting out a seasonal sign up form in about a week or two. So if you have a book coming out in the fall, winter, or spring, or even next summer, you can sign up for a spot on that seasonal show. You can sign up for it right now, and your spot is reserved. We're going to have a great time. We're going to keep this going just in a slightly different way, on a slightly different frequency. So please stick around with us and watch for that post, watch for that form. We want you on the stream, our seasonal stream. And it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
It's going to be awesome. Now, and we did it for so long every week. And of course, that first year, especially, people were tuning in left and right because nobody had anywhere to go.
We had a literally captive audience.
And we had, and the writers were captive, and the viewers were captive, and it was fantastic. And then people started going out and doing stuff on Sunday nights and what have you.
And we want them to get out there and be out in the world without fear of terrible illness.
We want them to go out, and we want them to do live things like our open mic and what have you. And here we are, Katie's, this doesn't apply to Katie, but me, I'm getting old. Katie's younger, and she's going backwards in time. I don't know how she's doing that. People don't know, Katie and I met, we were the same age. Look at us now. It's I don't know what's going on. But anyway, time for change. It's always good. Change is good, and this is going to be great.
Change is good. Change is good. So we will still be doing this with you, just on a different frequency, a little bit of a different calendar situation, but it's going to be awesome. If you have a publication or book or anything coming up within the next year, watch for that post and please sign up. We'll get you on here for the first time or returning. It's going to be awesome. But we need to get to our readings, and we're going to go at least 5 minutes late tonight because we took an extra 5 minutes for our announcements. We need to welcome up to the screen Beth Marie Reed. Hey, Beth.
Hi.
How are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. We are so excited to have you back on the stream again. I'm going to introduce you with your bio. Beth Marie earned her MFA in creative writing in the height of the coronavirus pandemic. Oh, graduating in the summer of 2020. Oh, dear. She is the author of one published novel, Pulling at the Stars. Beth is also an award-winning newborn photographer and enjoys traveling. She lives in Connecticut with her husband and 2 daughters. We can't wait to hear you read. Beth, take it away.
Thank you so much, Katie and Chris. So I'm going to be reading from my current work in progress. So it is still a working story. The work in progress that I have right now is a collection of completely true stories that have happened in my life. If you know me in real life and you know anything about me, you know that I'm kind of a magnet for embarrassing situations. So many of the stories in this collection have a lot of situational comedy in them. But occasionally I will write a story that is a little more heartfelt, and that's what I'm going to read for you tonight. The name of this story is called Thank God for Dogs and FaceTime. It was 6 o'clock in the evening, and I had mascara and snot wiped all over my face from an overused tissue. I had just hung up from a FaceTime call with my father, who lived in South Carolina. He was in an animal hospital with Honey, his dog who was 14 years old and ridden with cancer. She was losing so much blood that the veterinarian said she likely wouldn't last another hour, let alone the night. I was home in Connecticut, but I wanted nothing more than to be there with her, just like she was there for me all those years ago. You see, Honey wasn't always my father's dog. I adopted her from a shelter in Brooklyn, New York when she was only 12 weeks old, and she was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. I'd been living in Manhattan by myself after a horrible breakup and desperately needed to feel loved again. It's amazing how many awful prospects there are for a decent date in a city that houses millions of people. I despised loneliness and wondered if I'd ever find someone actually worthy of marrying, let alone dating. If the older me could go back and talk to the younger me, I'd give a gentle reminder that life doesn't revolve around whether I got married or not. It was a cool summer morning, and the mobile adoption event was parked on the side of the road near the East River. I didn't have any intentions of bringing a dog home that day, but as I walked by, I locked eyes with a darling puppy that one of the volunteers was holding. She wore a bright orange vest that said, Adopt Me on it, and I chuckled at how big the vest was and how tiny the puppy was swimming in it. I stopped and looked for a moment, then asked the volunteer if it was a boy or a girl. Girl, she said. Cool, cool. I nodded my head in agreement. I wanted to hold her, but was nervous at the idea of getting attached to an animal I likely wouldn't be able to bring home with me. Thanks, I said, and walked away, looking back over my shoulder to take one last look. As I walked and pondered, it occurred to me that maybe a dog was exactly what I needed. Maybe a dog could fill the void. By the time I rounded the corner back towards the event, I'd already called out of work and asked a friend to meet me there with a travel crate. I spotted the volunteer holding her. Hey, I said, can I hold her? Absolutely, she said, and plopped the little girl right into my arms. The first thing I noticed was how soft her fur was. Her short coat was brown and black brindle, and when I looked around, I realized there were about 5 more clones of her hanging about. Her entire litter was surrendered from a hoarding situation, and she was the only female. As soon as she climbed into my arms, she rested her head on me, and to my surprise, just peacefully hung out. Weren't puppies supposed to be full of energy? She was, I came to find out, absolutely full of energy. But right then, she was calm and relaxed. And if dogs could talk, I do believe in that moment she would have said only one thing to me. Hi, Mom. I snuggled my face into her fur and brought her home that day, completely unprepared for what owning a puppy really entailed. She peed on the floor a lot, I'll tell you this much. But after watching many episodes of Caesar Milan, she was housebroken, knew a few tricks, and above all, unconditionally loved and trusted me. I named her Honey because as a single female living alone, it felt nice to walk through the doors of my apartment and announce, Honey, I'm home. She was an exceptional dog. I worked 7 days a week to be able to afford my apartment and the luxury of living on my own in the Big Apple, so I hired a dog walker to help out with her. I'd get up at 5 a.m. and walk her for an hour. Then the dog walker would come around lunchtime and walk her for another hour. And when I got home, we'd go for our final sunset stroll along the East River and stop in at her favorite place, the dog park. Honey loved the dog park. This is where she could get all her zoomies out, running back and forth at full speed, not even caring that there were other dogs to play with. Mostly, she just wanted to run. The more she grew, the more beautiful she became. People would often stop me in the streets and ask me what kind of dog she was. I truly didn't know, so sometimes I would say she was a mutt, but other times, just to mess with people, I would say she was a hyena. And I really got a kick out of that one, especially when people believed me. New Yorkers can be pretty gullible at times. About a year after I brought Honey home, I met a guy online and we got married 8 weeks after we met, which is pretty insane looking from the outside in. This man lived in Washington State, which was quite a hike from New York City. Since he insisted that I be the one to move, I shipped all my belongings to the Pacific Northwest and prepared to move. Part of my preparations included purchasing a cute little backpack for Honey so she could carry her own things. When the time came to leave, I grabbed my backpack, put on hers, walked her straight onto the subway, into JFK, through security, and onto the plane without one single person questioning me as to why I was on a plane with an uncrated dog. I imagine that security mistook the backpack for a service dog vest, and in 2010, it was something apparently people could get away with. I wouldn't try it now, though. Getting through security was easy, but traveling across the country with a dog wasn't. She still needed to be able to eat, drink, and go potty. When I got to JFK, I asked the information desk if they had a bathroom area for dogs. At the time, they didn't, and the Blase information desk lady informed me they absolutely did not have an area for dogs and scrunched her nose in disgust. So I asked where I could take Honey because she clearly needed to go. She shrugged her shoulders without taking her eyes off her computer screen. I turned away thinking that maybe I could just hold her over a toilet or something. What a sight that would have been. But before I could even get 10 steps away, Honey decided she would take a shit right in front of the information desk. I watched her drop the most disgusting, wretched, anxious dog diarrhea poop all over the carpet and informed the information desk lady that we would need a cleanup in aisle airport with no dog area. I still laugh when I think about it, but the airport learned their lesson. Each terminal now has a relief area for pets, and on behalf of Honey, you're welcome. I don't think it's a surprise to say my first marriage didn't last. My ex-husband turned out to be a complete sociopath and abused me pretty hardcore. One time he locked Honey in the bathroom for hours. She was terrified and tore up the linoleum flooring in an attempt to get out. I don't know what he did to her when he found the floor ripped up, but when I got home that day, he had already listed her as free to a good home on Craigslist and shipped her off to his parents' home the next town over. I wish I could say his parents were kind and understanding people, but the apple didn't fall far from the tree. They left Honey in a pen outside 24/7 and invited their family dog into the house without her. This lasted for weeks, and I begged him daily to let her back. He had found a family that would take Honey a few towns over, but I rioted, and I even broke a few glasses in the process. I wanted my dog back. So, in addition to telling everyone he's ever met that I was certifiably insane, he agreed to let her back under the condition she stayed in a crate. I agreed, but I didn't uphold my end of the bargain. The moment he would leave in the morning, she was out of her crate and by my side. Because the apartment we lived in was his, and he reminded me of that often, if we had an argument, I would sleep on the couch. I ended up sleeping on the couch more often than not, and Honey would curl up next to me as best as her 45-pound body would allow. And it didn't take long before I found out I was pregnant with a wedding night baby. And I knew that Honey could sense it because she never let me out of her sights. When the abuse escalated, I found myself locked out of my ex-husband's apartment after taking Honey on a post-argument walk. I didn't know what to do. At that point, I was so isolated. I didn't have a phone, a car, any local friends, or means of communication with my friends back east. I was completely stuck. Honey and I walked to a nearby park, and even though that part of Washington state was crawling with the Mexican mafia, and my ex husband's car had been robbed just a few days prior, I found myself tucked up on a park bench for a cold night's sleep. All things considered, I felt safe with Honey keeping watch. Eventually, a police officer found me and asked what the hell I was doing at such an hour in a park with my dog, nonetheless. And I told him what was going on. He contacted my ex husband, who was at his parents' house, I found out, and not even at our apartment, and he came back to let me in. The gracious officer pulled my ex aside and told him to leave for the night and not return. I think he sensed some domestic issues going on, but since there were no visible marks on me, he did what he could given the circumstances. I was absolutely freezing for sleeping outside for hours with no jacket and no blanket. I dove under the sheets, Honey not far behind me, and we sprawled out onto the bed, just us gals, for the first peaceful sleep we'd had since I got married. I cradled my tiny bump, patted Hetty on the head, and promised them both that we'd get the hell out of there the first chance we got. We did get the hell out of there. It took a couple months and a lot of planning and scheming, but we did it. I had to leave with nothing but what I could carry in a small suitcase in the middle of the day while my ex was at work. I finally got the attention of a neighbor, found a phone, got help, and a plane ticket back east. I had already sublet my apartment in New York City and I couldn't go back there, so I decided I'd visit my dad, who lived in the Carolinas. Honey was a champion flyer. I booked the bulkhead seat for both journeys, just to give her a little bit of extra room. And even though she was bursting with puppy energy on the inside, she didn't show it. She slept at my feet for every flight, and everyone around me complimented how awesome she was. I mean, she didn't even fart. And if you are a dog owner, you know that dogs are not the type to hold farts in for any reason. She was the goodest, best dog, and everyone on those flights fell in love with her. It really wasn't hard to fall in love with Honey. We hung out at my dad's house for a few weeks, but then it became apparent that I needed to be in a place where I had a larger support system, and that place was my hometown in Connecticut. There was only one catch. If I moved up north, I'd be homeless and pregnant with a dog. My father was reluctant to take Honey at first. Our family has sort of a generational curse when it comes to single parenthood because not only was I gearing up to be a single mom, my father was also a single dad for the second time. My brother is 16 years younger than me, and at the time was a very hyper 7-year-old who needed a lot of care and attention. Bringing an animal into the mix wouldn't have been the easiest decision, but my father, being the caring, helpful, and all around stand up guy that he is, decided to take on the challenge. Honey was still very much a puppy and would do puppy things like bark at neighboring dogs through the fence, jumping on the back door with her muddy paws, making a mess of her food bowl. My father was extremely patient given his circumstances and agreed to take her for 1 year while I figured my situation out. I moved up to Connecticut and essentially couch surfed for the last 4 months of my pregnancy and for the first 4 months of my daughter's life. I had a lot of help from my friends and truly have no idea where I would be in life without them. I missed Honey every day of that 8 months and was just bursting with excitement at the possibility of getting her back soon. I worked so hard during this time, taking on multiple jobs, saving as much as I could. I bought myself a car and was officially apartment shopping after wearing out my welcome at a friend's house. I ended up applying to HUD housing, and soon after applying was blessed with a 3-story, 2-bedroom townhouse for only $600 a month. That price would be unheard of these days, but it was also a steal of a price then as well. I jumped at the chance to grab the townhouse I'd worked so hard for until I read the fine print. No dogs allowed. I begged the leasing office to consider letting me have her. I promised she was a good dog, that she would be calm and quiet, and they repeatedly told me no. I was gutted. When I called my father to tell him the great news about the apartment, I also dropped the idea of him hanging onto Honey for another year. It was hard enough finding an apartment willing to take on a single mother and a newborn baby. I knew this townhouse was the best I was going to get, and I needed to make a very adult and difficult decision of putting the needs of my child above the needs of my pup. It was absolutely not a decision I took lightly or with stride. I cried for many horrible nights over the idea of not seeing Honey for yet another year. There was another factor in all of this: my younger brother, who had grown significantly attached to Honey over the last year. I moved into my new apartment in the summer of 2011, and we had nothing but a few pots and pans, a mattress on the floor, and a crib in her bare nursery to our names. Often I would go without dinner because I only had enough money for her formula and a small pack of diapers despite working full time. Childcare was astronomically expensive even then, and most of my paycheck went to taking care of her. I don't know how I would have fed a dog on top of all of this, given I wasn't even eating many meals myself. But I knew she was in good hands with my dad. In fact, he mentioned he fed her gourmet dog food regularly. In March of 2012, my brother turned 9 years old, and both he and my father were completely smitten with Honey. She brought joy to their lives and fulfilled a much needed form of feminine energy in their home. My brother no longer had his mother to hug him and kiss him and tuck him in at night, but he had my dad, and now he had Honey to snuggle with whenever he craved the extra need for cuddles. I wasn't exactly sure when I would ever get my shit together enough to bring Honey home, so I decided that if it was okay with my father, I would give Honey to them as a gift, just in time for my brother's birthday on March 11th. I remember that phone call well. My dad actually called me to discuss the dog situation and was upset because he didn't know what to tell my younger brother whenever he asked if Honey was staying or coming back to live with me. And I never really took that into consideration, how it would feel for my brother to get attached to a dog and then suddenly have to give her away. I was devastated when it happened to me as an adult. How would it feel in his 9-year-old heart? Since the decision had already been made in my mind, I let my dad know that he could tell my brother in confidence that Honey was there to stay. Over the years, Honey developed a bond with my father and my brother, but it became increasingly clear that my dad was her preferred human. My dad would FaceTime me often while he was on walks with her at the end of the day, and I could sense even through the phone how happy and fulfilled her life was. One night, he was walking Honey, and the sun had tucked itself behind the hills. Honey was more alert than usual and spotted a man who appeared out of nowhere approaching my father, and she lost it. She protectively barked and warned my father of the intruder, so he spun around to find a man with a club in his hand. My father, being the protector that he is, approached the man aggressively and asked what he was doing. It was evident that the man was on hard drugs and quickly exited once he sensed the protectiveness both my father and Honey had over each other. Honey did not hesitate in protecting her loved ones. She easily would have taken a bullet for any one of us. So when by chance I found a tumor on the roof of her mouth, the size of a plum, the vet told us we had just caught it in time, and I had finally somehow repaid her for all those years that she had been diligently saving our lives. She came to visit my home for the first time, and only time, 2 years before her death. By that time in history, my daughter was 10 years old, and I had remarried a fantastic man. And together we had another daughter who was 4. We were preparing to adopt a family dog since we were finally financially stable and living in a house with a backyard. So I had all the bowls and toys and items that would make Honey feel comfortable. I know it sounds absurd, but every time Honey saw me, she would give me a hug. She'd put her head down and wag her tail and shove the top of her head into my chest anytime I visited. But the day she came to my home, she was a little more cautious, Maybe it was the fact that she'd never been there before, or maybe it was the fact that my two kids ran as fast as they could straight at her to smother her with kisses. When my kids cleared out and it was my turn to greet her, I could see how weak she was becoming in her old age. She snipped me with her gray face and tucked her head down into my chest. Would be our last hug. She mostly slept during her visit, but once in a while she would play with some of the dog toys I'd bought. A couple days into the visit, I noticed some blood on the toys. I thought maybe her tooth was bleeding, but when I looked, I spotted a large mass on the roof of her mouth. I gently touched the area and some blood pooled onto my hand. "Dad, something's wrong with Honey," I called. When he approached, I saw the way she looked at him, like how a mother watches her newborn baby sleep with complete adoration. He checked out the lump in her mouth and agreed. It was alarming. We didn't want to say it, but we both instinctively knew it was likely cancer. He'd take her to the vet as soon as they returned home in a few days, where it was confirmed. The evening before they drove back home, I decided to take Honey into my backyard in the glow of the sunset and take some photos of her. I knew without doubt it would be my last view of her, and I wanted to remember it. Early the next morning, I pressed my forehead up against hers, kissed her nose, and told her goodbye. Honey was only given a few months to live, but my father was determined to give her the best possible chance at recovery. He had the cancer removed and looked into every possible natural way to keep her alive. His efforts were not in vain. Despite her only having a few months to live, even with surgery, she went on to live another 2 years. It was around 5 o'clock in the evening when I got that FaceTime call. My dad was at the animal hospital with Honey, and they told him she wouldn't make it the night. She was losing blood into her stomach, and the scans showed that the cancer had spread throughout her entire body. He put the phone up to her, and I could see the worried look in her eyes. She knew what was happening, but by the look on her face, she wasn't ready to go. She was leaning against my dad in pain, but not wanting to leave him, and knowing it was inevitable. I could barely get through the conversation, looking back and remembering all that she had done for me, remembering the first day I saw her in the orange adoption vest, the feel of her fur, the warmth of her hug. Before we hung up, my dad looked into the phone and said, "Thank you for giving me the best dog I've ever had in my life." She was 14 years old when she left us, and my father held her in his arms as she drew her final breath. In Buddhism, they say that the only thing certain in life is uncertainty. Nothing will ever stay exactly the same. People come and go, things change, and the ones we love eventually leave us to walk through death's door. Everything we know and ever will know will have a beginning, a middle, and most definitely an end. Our time with Honey had come to an end, but the impact she had on our lives will last a lifetime. And that's the end.
Beth! Ah! What an incredibly just gorgeous, beautiful story about a life with Honey, life with a dog, and what an incredibly powerful and beautiful story. We've got all kinds of really awesome comments in the chat. You're going to have to
Yes.
see them.
Oh,
And, and we have
your dad.
She saved my butt that night.
Oh, yes, she did, Dad.
There's Dad. You made Dad cry. Come on.
Dad, we love you.
Come on.
Dad, we love you,
Don't make Dad
honey.
cry.
We love you too.
It's really hard to get through that story without crying myself.
Oh,
I can feel it.
you were amazing because you read it so beautifully. I was like, amazing. What a beautifully written story. How beautifully captured it was, and I think any of us who have had pets can really relate to how They have how they have saved our lives, how they've transformed us, how they've made us feel like we had a companion when we were alone. Chris, oh yeah. But Beth, is this story? Can we get this in our hands somewhere? Have you sent the story out? Is it published? Where is it at?
It's nowhere but in my computer right now.
Oh my God.
I'm contemplating maybe getting some published. I know you were there for the very belated graduation reading when I talked about my apple tree.
I think so. Yes, yes.
So I would like to get that one out too. That's definitely a more like funny story, where this one was more like sad.
Yes.
But ultimately, I would love to compile them into just a book,
A collection
of stories of my life. And as I told you backstage, I have many embarrassing.
Oh my God, you need to add this most recent one. Oh my gosh.
I
don't have time for you to share that incredible story, Beth, but I feel like
I'll have to get the book when it comes out.
You'll have to get it. Oh, Beth has great stories, but that was just so gorgeous, Beth. And we didn't want to pop in and give you a time warning, but we are really at time. But that was just the most beautiful story. And everybody, that Pulling at the Stars is out there. That is Beth's novel. So make sure that you are following Beth on social media, that you're checking out her photography, that you're grabbing her book, and keeping an eye out for when this story collection comes.
For sure. I'll have to come back and do your seasonal one.
Yes, please.
That's right.
You need to write a story about this most recent.
Oh, that's happening. Oh my God, that'll be like, yeah, it's definitely reading.
Oh my God, you'll bring down the house. Yes, please, and please come back. On for our seasonal stream, we would love that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much once again for being with us tonight and for sharing that incredible story.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I pressed the wrong button, but Lynne, here you are. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Lynne Heinzmann. Look, we had 3 weeks off, and I'm already mixing up my buttons. But actually, we do need to move it right along. I was just going to gush a little bit more about Beth. What a beautiful story, right? Just absolutely incredible. But Lynne, we are so excited to welcome you back to the stream, our dear FUMFA alum friend. How have you been?
Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome. Chris, would you do the honor of sharing Lynne's bio with us?
Happily. Lynne Heinzmann, who received an MFA in creative writing from where else? Fairfield University back in 2014, is an author / book coach / editor from North Kingstown, Rhode Island. She has had 3 books published: Frozen Voices from our friends at New Rivers Press, which was the winner of the 2015 Fairfield Book Prize, is a historical novel about 4 passengers aboard a doomed steamship sailing from Providence to New York City one cold night in 1907. Also, The Curious Childhood of Wanton Chase, also from Woodhull Press, a work of historical fiction, is the first book of a series about the Rose Island Lighthouse, charming station off the coast of Newport, Rhode Island. Lynne's second book, in the Lighthouse series, The Island Adventures of Paul Stedman, was published 2 years later, and her 4th published book, But Cats Don't Talk, a young adult novel about a female piano prodigy and her snarky kitty, from guess where? Woodhull Press.
Woo!
Well, geez. In just October of 2023, that's very close. In addition to writing, Lynne enjoys coaching and editing for other authors and teaching continuing ed classes at the University of Rhode Island, Grub Street, Providence, and other places. Please visit her online at lynneheinzmann.com. I'm going to put that in the chat so people can see the spelling and all that stuff. And Lynne, take it away.
Well, first I wanted to say thank you to Katie and for Chris for having me back on, but just for doing this week in and week out for so many years, and just how wonderful it's been just to keep us all connected this way. And kudos to you guys. It's just fantastic. We really appreciate it. I know I really appreciate it. And also congratulations to Beth. That was an awesome story. And I can't wait for you to get that published somewhere, because I would certainly love to read all sorts of stories like that. Just so heartfelt, just wonderful. So thank you very much. Just fantastic. Okay, so tonight I'm going to read from But Cats Don't Talk, which, as Chris just mentioned, is going to be published in October. Thank you, Woodhull Press. It's a story of Becca O'Sullivan, who's a brilliant young woman with everything going for her. She's got a promising career as a concert pianist. She has a loving mom, a sweet tuxedo cat named Beethoven the Cat, or BC for short. And when Becca's world is turned upside down, she's determined to succeed no matter what, which will be tough to do while dealing with an alcoholic aunt, an extremely cute new friend, and her cat, who has seemingly learned to talk and has an awful lot to say. So Becca is afraid she won't be able to hold it together long enough to make it to the end of the performance season. And even if she does, she has no idea what she's going to do after the concerts are over. So that's what the book is about. And I'm going to read to you right from the beginning of the story. So this is the first couple pages of But Cats Don't Talk. Backstage at Courthouse Center for the Arts, I lean forward on the piano bench and whisper in BC's furry ear, I wish you could say something. Wish me luck, tell me to chill, just anything. Don't you know that's what best friends are supposed to do? Instead, BC does what he always does. He sleeps in his cat bed on the top of the grand piano while I do what I always do. I perch on the very edge of the bench and suffer a minor bout of stage fright as I wait for the curtain to go up. I know I'm going to play well. I always do. But I still get nervous beforehand. Probably just an adrenaline rush. Mom, why do I agree to perform these stupid concerts? I whisper whine. The audience is going to hate me. Beads of sweat trickle down inside my new black satin gown. Mom, looking ridiculously calm and unbelievably gorgeous in her matching Mother of the Bride dress, slides onto the piano bench beside me, wraps an arm around my shoulder, and hugs me so close I catch a reassuring whiff of her Coach perfume. Rebecca O'Sullivan, she says with a smile, why do we have to go through this drama routine before every performance? She pulls out one of her lace hankies and gently blots my face, my neck, and my back, careful not to smudge my stage makeup. You know the audience is going to love you. They always do. You look gorgeous, you're amazingly talented, and you play beautifully. What is not to love? But why do I have to be here at all, I ask. Gone with the Wind is on TCM tonight. Right now, BC and I could be sitting on the couch with a huge bowl of popcorn enjoying our favorite movie. Mom shrugs. You're the one who says she wants to be a world-famous pianist. As far as I know, they don't award national touring contracts to 17-year-old girls who sit on sofas with their cat eating popcorn and watching Atlanta burn to the ground for the 20th time. How does she always know just the right thing to say, she and Grandpa? My eyes brim with tears as I point my chin toward the audience on the other side of the blue velvet curtain. I still have to remind myself that Grandpa won't be out there when the curtain opens. I can't believe I played almost an entire season without my number one fan, I say to Mom. Mom squeezes my shoulder. You know he's here with you in spirit. But I don't want Grandpa here in spirit. I want him here for real. Stupid cancer killed him on New Year's Eve, and now it's only the day after Thanksgiving, almost a year later. He wasn't that old, only 69. No way he should have died yet. Grandpa always said he was a corn farmer and didn't know much about classical piano music, but I could tell he loved hearing me play by the way his face lit up whenever he'd tell anyone who'd listen, that's my granddaughter up there, isn't she something? He came to every one of my concerts and sat right next to Mom, all duded up in his brown three-piece suit, the only suit he ever owned. He'd even gotten married to Grandma in it. I could always look forward to him hugging me after my show so I could press my nose into his suit coat and smell pipe smoke, hay, and Old Spice aftershave, all the scents of Grandpa. But there'll be no Grandpa hug today. A wave of sadness makes me feel heavy and empty at the same time. I take the hanky from Mom and dab the corners of my eyes. Hey, well, maybe my dad will come to the show, I say sarcastically, repeating a long-standing joke between us. You never know, she says with a raised eyebrow. Wait, what? For just a moment, I forget my nervousness. Then Mom waves a hand dismissively, completely stopping any further discussion about dear old Dad. Typical Mom behavior, always in control of every situation. One of these days, though, I'm going to get her to talk about my father. I mean, I have a right to know who he is. She changes the subject. Aunt Cassie told me she'd be here tonight. I left her a ticket at the box office. Yeah, well, if she's not too drunk to find the theater, I say. Hey, Mom says. She's been doing a lot better lately. Mom always defends her little sister. Maybe she doesn't see how screwed up Aunt Cassie is. I mean, I love the woman, but she's a hardcore alcoholic. So maybe I'll know one person in the theater, I say. My mom laughs. This is Rhode Island, honey. You'll know everyone. Mrs. Fox, my piano students, their families, your friends from your high school. Oh, you mean the friends who think I'm a piano playing freak? Yep, I'm sure they're out there in the audience right now, holding their breath, just waiting for me to start the show. I stroke BC's soft fur, and he rewards me with a gentle headbutt. I can always count on him. BC and Mom, my small but powerful posse. Mom shoots me a frown. You and I need to talk about that attitude, young lady. Ever since your birthday party last year, you've been avoiding your friends, and I don't know why. I've always got the impression that Olivia, Haley, Chelsea, most of your other friends thought your concert career was cool. I think you have that wrong, Mom, I say. Most of my supposed friends think I'm a complete nerd. Thank God for homeschooling. I'm still not sure if I should have let you get away with that, she says, and then for your senior year, too. She shakes her head. We can talk about that another time. She rises gracefully. Are you ready to perform, my lady? I roll my eyes. Oh, sure, let's get this over with. Mom gives me one last squeeze and then walks to the soundboard where stage manager Dave Morales is standing there waiting. Tall, cute for his age, he's mid-30s like Mom, and well-built. Dave looks like he should be appearing on the stage at the Courthouse Center instead of being its manager, especially when he's wearing a tux like he is now. A few seconds later, the house lights flicker once, twice, and then dim. Behind me, 3 potted planted trees sparkle with tiny lights, and the scrim glows russet and brown to make the stage look more interesting and to commemorate Thanksgiving, which was yesterday. I see Mom slip through the stage door to join the audience. I know when the curtain opens, she'll be where she always is, because no matter where I perform, the Courthouse Center or Boston Symphony Hall or even Carnegie Hall in New York City, Mom always makes sure she sits in the front row, middle seat. She writes it into every one of my contracts. She says she wants me to always see her face first thing at every show, so I remember she loves me and is rooting for me with all her heart. She really is a cool mom, even if she is a little bit of a control freak. Time for my pre-show ritual. I jostle BC in his bed and whisper, "Where's middle C?" As I press down the silent pedal with my foot, he slowly stands, stretches, hops down on the keyboard, struts over, and calmly bats middle C, the white key in the center of the piano's keyboard, looking up at me with pride in his accomplishment, showing his beautiful yellow eyes. I smooch him and tuck him back in his bed, glad he'll be right there with me for the whole performance. Weird, I know, but BC is my best furry friend, security blanket and good luck charm all rolled into one, and I need him right there with me at all my shows. I stand, smooth the back of my gown, sit, brush out the wrinkles across my lap, and then stretch my legs to position my black ballet flats on the piano's shiny gold pedals. I know I should walk out on stage after the curtain is already raised, like most concert pianists do, making a grand entrance to the sound of thunderous applause. But since I don't take after my graceful mom, and I'm a complete klutz, is dear old dad a klutz too? I wonder. I'm already seated on the piano bench when the curtain opens, so I don't need to worry about tripping and falling on my face or doing anything totally embarrassing like that. 3 deep breaths and I'm ready to go. Dave catches my eyes from his position stage right and smiles kindly. All set? He asks. He really is a nice guy. Mom should go for him, especially since he's been so into her for years, despite her lack of encouragement. A shiver of anticipation runs down my back as I nod. Okay, then here we go, he says, clicking on the microphone and walking out in front of the curtains. Ladies and gentlemen, his deep voice booms over the auditorium speaker, sounding like the voice of God. The Courthouse Center for the Arts welcomes you to this evening's presentation of Beethoven's Piano Sonatas, numbers 25 through 28. We are proud to present tonight's concert performed by our very own award-winning concert pianist, Rebecca O'Sullivan, who hails from just down the road in Exeter, Rhode Island. As many of you know, this season, Rebecca is attempting to become a member of the exclusive B32 Club of pianists who have performed all 32 of Beethoven's sonatas in one season. Tonight's show is Rebecca's 7th in a series of 8. If she completes this challenge by performing the final 4 sonatas at her show next month, she will be the youngest concert pianist in the world to ever do so and will be awarded a Guinness World Record. So please plan on coming back on Saturday, December 21st to see that final concert. Tonight, we are pleased to have a special guest in the audience, Dave says. Christian Zielinski, the world-renowned concert pianist. At the age of 18, Mr. Zielinski won the prestigious International Chopin Competition, and ever since then, he's enjoyed an amazing concert career, performing with premier orchestras all over the world. Last year, he also performed all 32 of Beethoven's sonatas in one season. Mr. Zielinski, would you please stand and take a bow? From my seat behind the curtain, the applause sounds muffled, like a rush of wind through some pine trees. I imagine Mr. Zielinski, who I have never met in person yet, standing and smiling graciously, and I realize he is the one to blame for me being unable to watch my favorite movie tonight, since he's sort of responsible for me trying to become the youngest member of the B32 Club. About a year ago, Mom showed me a notice about Christian Zielinski performing all of Beethoven's sonatas and asked me if I'd be interested in trying to do the same. When she managed to get Guinness World Records to sponsor the 8 concerts and award me a national touring contract if I succeed, I had to go for it, right? And then when Mom heard Mr. Zielinski would be in town tonight, she practically begged him to come to my show and was thrilled to death when he accepted. When I asked her why she was so interested in Mr. Zielinski, she wouldn't explain. Typical mom behavior. Over the PA system now, I hear Dave inform the audience where the auditorium exits are and ask them to turn off their cell phone, and then suggests they sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Dave clicks off the microphone as he steps back into the wings. He flashes me another encouraging smile, and then, as the audience claps in anticipation, sounding like another rush of wind, he hoists the velvet curtain, releasing dust particles that sparkle like tiny snowflakes in the blue, red, and white stage lights and the blinding spotlight that's pointed right at me center stage. Every muscle in my body stiffens, while BC, unfazed by the bright lights and the loud applause, snoozes peacefully atop the piano, a low, rumbly snore accompanying his every exhale. I shoot a glance at Mom's smiling face in the first row, close my eyes, and try to remember everything she taught me about the opening of the first piece. The auditorium becomes completely silent, like someone holding his breath in anticipation of something amazing. I fill my lungs, place my finger on the gleaming black and white keys, and launch into the lightning quick eighth notes and arpeggios of Beethoven's Sonata Number 25. 30 seconds later, I become part of the melody, soaring up and down like a hawk, catching ascending and descending thermals over the cornfields surrounding our farmhouse, flying with the music I love. I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
Lynne, so beautiful. Oh my gosh, and so fun. And so exciting too. I just love it. There's so much fun to have, in what you're sharing, and it just makes, I hope it's making everyone want to go ahead and pick up this book and read it. It's just absolutely so much fun. I love the classical music thing. I love how you got to share with us this, what she's gotten herself caught up with here, where it's like so exciting, but also like pressure is on. And I was just noting, we always have serendipitous connections between readings tonight. And I was saying to myself, what a special night for precious pets in our series.
Dogs, cats, everything. Yes.
I love it. I need a pet so bad. I've got pet fever now.
I think so.
That's so awesome, Lynne. And I think you did such a great job. And we had talked about this, I think on the last time that you were on the stream, about getting into the voice of of a teenager in this situation, and the challenges of that, and kind of the excitement of that as well.
this is fun for me, this book particularly, because I've always written historical fiction,
That's
which has
right.
all been a lot of research and then trying to get into the heads of these characters. And then this one, I got to make it all up. So
I love it.
I got to play God. And that was, I just had such a blast doing that. It was so much fun. So
Lynne, that is so awesome. Yeah, I think that's absolutely delightful. You were kind of free in all of these ways. And I love the hinting about mom's dating life. And that makes me want to find out more in this story as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on in this story. I can feel it, like things there's going to be a lot more happening after
Yeah.
this performance tonight. I'm wondering if that what drew you to write this book, was to say, oh, okay, I don't have to do all this research. Although, I mean, I don't know how much you know about this world, but I mean, it feels very authentic about the classical music world, piano, concert scene and all that stuff. There's a lot involved there. But, was it like, oh, okay, I'm just going to write something that's fun, and I don't have to worry too much about what happened in 1907, what kind of clothes they wore, and all this kind of stuff, and I'm just going to enjoy this. And it was just like a fun.
Yeah, how did you come to this piece?
That was a big part of it, Chris, was just the whole idea of writing something, just the whole cloth, just starting from the beginning. The other thing, actually, what really got me into writing this piece was a couple of years ago, I read a newspaper article about a young man, actually, who had decided that he was going to play all 30 Beethoven sonatas and memorize them all. I don't know, at the time, I knew something about classical music. I did study piano when I was a kid. And actually, my older brother, he played all the way up through high school, and he was like really, really good. But just the idea, Beethoven sonatas apparently are some of the most difficult pieces. So the idea of playing all 32 of them in one season, I looked that up as I was reading that newspaper article. I'm like, why? Oh gosh, that's awfully hard to do. And then I'm going, well, why would you do that? And then
I love this.
That's what got started with the story. Like, why would you do that? And actually, I wrote the entire first draft about a young man and him going through this whole process. And actually, I had him, he was OCD, and he was very much in trying to get everything done. And then everything, just over the years, it has evolved. And I realized that I really like writing about young women, and a powerful young woman who's just really going to go out there and get whatever she needs and get it done. And so that's how this all evolved. And I've just enjoying the ride, just the whole, just seeing how it evolved, and just letting it, because there was no, with the last two books I wrote for an organization. So I was actually writing kind of on spec, sort of, whereas this one, it was just all my own time. When I started writing it, I was just playing. I was like, oh, let's see what happens here. And just writing it. And then after I got it done, I'm like, well, since I've already written it, and the nice folks at Woodhull Press, I love those guys, were kind enough to,
we love them.
They were kind enough to say, yes, we'd like to publish that. So yeah, so October 1st, I guess it's coming out. So I still haven't seen the hard copy. I still haven't seen a hard copy, so I can't wait to get one in my hand. And just,
oh my gosh.
So yeah. So
Lynne, that's so exciting. Well, maybe we can get you on our fall show, and you can have the book in your hands.
I'd be very happy to. Yeah, and I can actually hold it up. So.
Woo! And I just love that image of the cat sleeping on top of the piano.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know where that came from. That was just out of the blue. It's like I was writing this thing, and all of a sudden the cat was sleeping on the top of the piano. I was like, okay, why not? So yeah.
I think that is so special. There's so much fun, so much excitement, so much whimsy here, so much to love about this story. And I think I love also hearing your story of how it came to be, and it was just such a freeing and fun process. And what a cool thing, because you made it sound like so official from within the classical music world. Like, yeah, this is a thing. This is a thing to do. And I was with you on it. I was just like, oh my God, that's awesome.
I'm surprised at how much research goes into, because I knew historical fiction, obviously you've got to do all that research and get all those things correct, and that was really important. But this one, I was so surprised. I mean, just researching all about classical piano and what that all involves. And there's also, she drives around in a GTO, and it's an old car. And, and even though the car appears like, just little tiny scenes here and there, but doing all the research to find out, it's a stick shift, and what does the dashboard look like? And, just the couple words that you need to have to make it feel authentic. and how
That's
much
right.
research is involved. You guys probably already know all that stuff, but that was surprising to
No,
me.
but Lynn, that's still so
Yeah.
cool because like you're such an expert at that research aspect at this point that you kind of must be like, oh, I am free, but I also am going to get it down to a
Yeah,
T. People are going to
absolutely.
be with me, is going to be, real, super, super real.
Yep. But
Absolutely.
that stuff is just so important, those little details that are just a sentence here or a moment there that really lock the reader in, and the reader says, "Oh, okay,
Yes.
I'll follow this narrator
Yep.
and
Yeah.
write and
And they
write
believe
not
you.
like
Yes,
you
exactly.
thinking about the narrator. I'll follow this narrator wherever she goes because she's convinced me." So
Yeah.
That's right.
yeah,
So
You got
cool, Lynn. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you so much for reading with us, and we can't wait for October 2023. We're super excited for the book to come out. Everybody, follow Lynn on social media.
right.
Thank you, guys. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Lynn. Ah, what? I need a dog. I need a cat, Chris. I want to pick back up with my classical music. I got my bass in the corner of my bedroom.
Antoinette's real busy right now writing a poem about a guinea pig.
I'm certain we're going to hear something about a beloved pet from Antoinette at this point. What a night it's been so far. And folks, we have one more incredible guest to welcome tonight. We are so super duper excited to welcome to our stream for the first time the Connecticut State Poet Laureate, Antoinette Brim-Bell. Welcome, Antoinette.
Hi.
How are you this evening?
This has been wonderful. I have to admit that I was dabbing my eyes during the honey story, and that was just absolutely amazing, Beth. And Lynn, I'm so excited for your new book to be coming out. And I know what it's like when you finally get to hold something in your hand and you're just like, ah! I'm super happy for that to come for her. I don't have any pets in
it's okay. It's okay.
in my work. I do have one under the desk at my feet. So there's my contribution
to the pet theme this evening. That's awesome, Antoinette. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce you with your bio. Antoinette Brim-Bell, Antoinette Brim, Connecticut's 8th State Poet Laureate, is the author of 3 full-length poetry collections, These Women You Gave Me, Icarus in Love, and Psalm of the Sunflower. She is a Cave Canem Foundation Fellow and an alumna of Voices of Our Nation's Art Foundation. Brim-Bell was nominated for the Pushcart Prize twice for poetry and essay. Her poetry has appeared in various journals, magazines, textbooks, and anthologies, including Villanelle's 44 on 44, 44 African-American writers on the 44th President of the United States, Not a Muse, and has appeared in Poetry Magazine and Poem a Day. Additionally, Brim-Bell has published critical work, most notably essays, Living Behind the Numbers, a statistic muses about her life, The Myopic Eye in Alice Walker's Flowers, and Juxtaposed Dichotomies, the idealized white suburban pastoral, the surrealist tableau of Black poverty, and the women in between. A printmaker and collage artist, Brim-Bell exhibited both poetry and monoprints in Jazz, an exhibition of poetry, prints, and photography at the Sumner McKnight Crosby Jr. Gallery in New Haven, Connecticut, and Sheroes in partnership with the Alliance of Women Veterans at the Grove Foundation based in New York City. She's a past board member of One World Progressive Institute and a past president of the board of directors of the Creative Arts Workshop in New Haven, Connecticut. Additionally, Brim-Bell hosted a series of Black History Month television programs for the One World Progressive Institute. She's also a former guest host of Patrick Oliver's Literary Nation talk show, Talk Radio. That's KABF 88.3, for which she interviewed a variety of entertainers, literary figures, political pundits, and community developers. A sought-after speaker, editor, educator, and consultant, Brim-Bell is a professor of English at Capital Community College in Hartford, Connecticut. We are so honored to have you on the show. Take it away, Antoinette Brim-Bell. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I'm going to be reading some new work. Actually, this is from my work in progress, my divorce dream book, which is actually a chapbook of poems that I am writing based on recurring dreams that I had. I guess it's been about 20 years ago. When I was going through a pivotal time in my life, I was going through a divorce, and I kept having these same recurring dreams over and over again. And so I wrote them down. And this summer, I have revisited those journals and notes and have begun to write these poems around them. So I will begin with what will be the first poem in that collection. And it begins with an epigraph. Night is the blotting paper of many sorrows. Anonymous. Sestina for the night. I await the night, the blotting paper of my many sorrows, where wrapped in its stalwart gloss, I yield to night's callous chill. My heart rests from her rending and mending done during the day. I await the night when my tears might fall up to heaven and become prayers that ask, seek, and knock in earnest hope that daylight will bring relief. Moonflowers bloom intoxicating relief. Viridescent tendrils thread together opal trumpets that herald the night. Notes of vanilla drip onto jasmine bliss and anoint my prayers. We who labor with so little recompense must endure each day's sorrows, whatever hunger, loss, or longing bursts through into our midday and leaves us stunned and slack-jawed in a sudden chill. Nonetheless, I dare to shut the door hard against the chill. Stubborn and resolute, I brew my own tenuous relief in a scorched and scoured kettle that rests by day, but whistles tinny and shrill into each new night. Rose petals steep in marzipan tea to drown my sorrows, whose unholy intent is to choke back my prayers. Does God divine our hushed, pinched prayers, then deploy his glistening seraphim into the stark chill to battle armies and armies of agonies and sorrows for us, the low-born who beg for relief? Will he command seraphim to rewrite the night, their feathers dipped into holy inkhorns until day? While dream deep, we can either be free or haunted until day. Should pride dilute our petitions into terse, polite prayers, we dream harbingers of pursuit, then flee to the edge of night, where our bones will rattle and break against the chill. Relief is reserved for the humble, the debased. Relief is for those who await the darkness to blot their sorrows on the rough sleeve of night. These many sorrows we carry in our wallets, purses, and pill bottles each day, in our bodies and minds as we take the byways. Relief is being blurred into a quiet, sleeping world where our prayers swaddle us against the ever-present chill. We await the night and hope this new night will host consoled sleep and curate sorrows into a cache of solutions we can carry into the next day despite the chill. Each and every night, we wrap ourselves in quiet relief and hopeful prayer. So this next poem is called A House Divided. Night after night, I arrive here where mitered perpendicular edges of pebbled concrete asphalt jut out and up into a clouded slate blue sky. Outsized, stacked, rectangular, glazed glass windows magnify midday sun into rolling waves of heat. Ahead of me, I see me, walking along the sidewalk alone, my own face so friendly and familiar that I call out, but then I see me, twist back, squint and sigh, and then disappear behind the mitered corner's edge. Each night I am shades of stippled gray, not yet stone, but airborne ash. Each night I am stumbled steps, then stuttered shuffle, then desperate sprint. Each night I see myself twist back, squint, and sigh, and then disappear behind the corner's mitered edge. So, yeah, when you're having these dreams night after night, um, sometimes you just don't want to go to sleep. And so I have written what I call insomniac tankas. 1, Jupiters. Dayside anger splits, hydrogen and oxygen apart. Sulks and sighs push the two toward night side, where tears become tears again. 2, Pink moon. When the creeping phlox covers the moon in crepe flush, we pray pestilence will pass. Spring will seed enough, crop to eat, and later sow. 3, do Luna moths hurry? When life is but 10 days, one turns sage in a week. Wide eye spots evolve. Eschew eating. Think only legacy, new moon, lift, glow. And I'll read one more from this collection. Duplex, waking dream at daybreak. Roused by beams of sunlight when the nocturnes fade, night clothes fall away, bare feet find the floor. Bare feet kick night clothes away to find the floor, and cold tiles stumble to the faucet that fogs hot. The faucet fogs hot, mists the cold tile like dew. Shower stutters into a swelling crescendo. Swelling crescendo showers sleep from my eyes. They open to saltwater sprays atop a curled bluff. My toes grip the bluff's edge, awash in salt water. Sprays shore me up in arcs of air, short of flight. Back arched, air shoring me up. It's a short flight to saltwater baptism and a clean, fresh hope. From saltwater baptism, a hopeful abode lifts, roused by beams of sunlight when the nocturnes fade. So I will leave that for a moment. And I'm looking at the time, I'll just read two more. This one is fashioned after 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. And I had read an amazing novel by Jose Saramago called Blindness. It was absolutely amazing. So it begins with this epigraph: if you can see, look. 13 Ways of Looking. Because I want to know, my eyes break common prisms into scattered light, gather up the rods into buckets of blues. Gotta see to know, gotta see to know, gotta know to see. Scaffolds of blues, gallows of light, built on 3 layers of tissue paper night, fill the cone with spotless second sight. Understand? Monochrome blind, one color allowed, snow blind, white light to excess, moon blind, nowhere to go, no path to follow. A man and his vision are one, just telling you what I know. Through a glass darkly, Hooke's microscope, Galileo's telescopes, Benjamin's spectacles, a keyhole, an emerald, a glass of water. No smudges on the window and anxious steamy breath on glass magnify the scope of hopeful, watchful eyes waiting earnestly at the window. Left to right, right to left, the truth is written in dotted permutations, calligraphed characters, code, alpha to omega, on papyrus, rice, wood, stone. Trace the shadows with your fingertips, your eyes, your lips. Big Mama was a seer, born that way, always knowing, could see the bitter winter coming in the glow of the firefly. Fish in her dreams could see sons and daughters in their mother's eyes. She saw sickness before it come, in the color of skin and nails. Big Mama was a seer, saw death walking up the path, went right on out to meet it. Seeing has a lucid, inescapable rhythm. The drum of fingernails on a wooden table, a syncopated alternating heel and palm pound, a deeply held stare that bores deeper down with each heartbeat, with each swell of breath. The rhythm births a dance, the sway of inspection, introspection, a slow chin tilt, an eyebrow pinch, lifted gaze, lowered gaze, the understanding nod. There is no such thing as out of sight. What has been seen cannot be unseen. Epiphany ensues, peekaboo, when vision is clear, hide and seek, the bards of old understood. I spy and philosophized with mine own eye. Even the blind see, in taps and touch. They do not fear the shadow's assault. Their ears grow wise, noses discern, tongues taste tears on the air. Take care, they can't be fooled. Light floods in a constant stream. Even in darkness, light finds its way. Old folks call kids nosy, but they smile inside when they say it. 'Cause nosy kids grow, see, look, know. And one short poem that I wrote for a very dear friend of mine who was going through a really hard time. And it takes its impetus from the movie Hotel New Hampshire, where a young woman jumps from an open window. So this is called Keep passing the open windows. 1 bad year equals 31,536,000 open windows. When words cannot penetrate double-paned casements, a simple pantomime will do. Fear and flight are one, but fear and flight need not be. Whether cafe, picture, or portal, it matters only that one feels small enough to pass through. I know the lure of open windows. They beckon with hyacinth fragrance on streamers of fresh air. However, at the sight of fluttering lace glowing in the morning light, stay. Thank you.
Antoinette Brim-Bell, everybody. Gorgeous, gorgeous, powerful, beautifully read poems, Antoinette. Oh my God.
Thank
Chris,
you. Thank you so much for having me.
thank you for being here with us, Antoinette. We are just blessed by your poetry. We're not worthy. Gorgeous.
I had the pleasure of seeing Antoinette read live last week in Ridgefield here, and you know how it's like you hear these things. Somebody's a poet laureate of the state of Connecticut, and you say, okay, that's cool. And then she goes up there, and it's like, oh, okay, I see.
Blows your head off with
Thank
amazingness.
Thank you.
I
I had a
see.
good time in Ridgefield. That was a really, really amazing venue and great readers.
That was a fun night. That's why I got married in that room.
Oh my God.
It's so beautiful. I was thinking this is definitely the place for parties and weddings and all kinds of beautiful things to happen.
Yes.
So
Well,
nice.
you were fabulous that night, and here you are, fabulous again on
Thank you.
Beth. So what you got it going on both?
Absolutely, absolutely. I had the pleasure of meeting Antoinette at a beautiful poetry event back in April, hosted by Sandy Carlson up in Woodbury. And it was such a pleasure to meet you, Antoinette. I was so excited that we would get to have you on the show this month. And oh my gosh, such gorgeous poems. The ones about in this new collection about the recurring dreams. Oh my God, how incredibly vivid and haunting. I felt like I could really smell them too. And these like kind of like musky nocturnal scents, the vanilla, the jasmine. You were really evoking that. That was so powerful. And I could really see it too. I'm excited for this collection. I'm so glad that you're no longer being haunted by these dreams. How is it going with that?
Well, like I said, these dreams were about 20 years ago.
Right.
And I knew I needed to capture them because I kept having them over and over and over.
Had to.
So usually, you don't remember your dreams when you wake up. So I wrote them down, and, I've checked in on them a couple of times, but I never knew exactly. I could never get the poetry to kind of come together. And this summer I pulled them out and I was looking at them again. And then all of a sudden I understood,
Wow.
the way in. And so I'm nearing completion with it, and I'm pleased with how they're going. And
Wonderful.
And I think it'll be, good to just kind of have them outside of myself and
yes,
go and have their other life. One of the things I've done in this collection is not try to interpret them, but just present them the way I experience them, and let them do what they do out there in the world.
Absolutely.
Antoinette, you've just described like so many things about poetry and the poetry life that resonate with me so much, where, basically, you knew you had to write about them. They've been marinating for 20 years. You're like, it's going to happen. You're sort of trusting that it's that it's going to happen. This summer you return to it and you're like, this is the time. I kind of have that way in. I trust that. I know that. And then I love how you also just said, I'm not going to interpret them. I'm not going to like kind of filter them, bend them. I'm finding the words to finally write about this. I'm just writing them. And that's kind of sort of like a trust the process and kind of just move with the flow of it rather than, oh, this needs to happen now and I need to, you're not going to capture it. And I feel like I can hear that it's the right time because they just were so vivid. And not only that, but your reading, your delivery is just so incredibly powerful as well. So I think just the magic of the way you wrote these poems and the way you shared them with us was just absolutely captivating.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
You just have to let things simmer, and sometimes you have to allow yourself to grow as a writer so that you're able to do the things that you might not have been able to do 20 years previously. Which is another reason I tell my students, never throw anything away.
Yes.
Working in that time, just hold on to it.
That's right.
You might come back to it at another time.
1,000,000% yes to all of that. I do an edited 1 and an edited 2, edited 3. I save every single version. I save everything. And I have plenty of poems that I kind of like write in like maybe my current era, but I always return to previous, sort of poems that were sort of like left to sort of marinate. And I do come back to them that same way. That is just the best advice, Antoinette. I'm sure you have so much more wonderful advice, but I'm excited to hear you tonight share some poetry in forms. And I would love to ask you, how were you drawn to formal poetry, and how did you first start writing poetry in form?
Well, I always have to smile when someone asks me why I write so much in form. My very first book was primarily free verse.
Yeah.
And when I was in my MFA program at Antioch in Los Angeles, the founding chair, Eloise Klein Healy, told me, I'd like to see you work in form. You're always in free verse. I'd like you to write in form. And at that time, I was going through my divorce. My children were little. And I was like, no, Eloise, I just want to be free.
I love it.
And she said to me, because at that time, her mother was very ill. And so she was writing about that process and grieving. And she was saying, well, I'm writing in form because sometimes you'll have a subject that's so big that you'll need something to contain it.
Yes.
And yeah, it's one of those things. I was a baby poet, kind of went over my head. So then my second book, which I kind of, wrote on a dare, someone challenged me to write about love. And that's one of those big subjects where it's like, nailing Jello to a wall, and you don't want to be overly sentimental or whatever. So I went to form.
Nice.
And so when I finished this collection, I emailed it to Eloise and said, okay, I get it. And she got a really big kick out of that and wrote a blurb for the back and of the book and everything. But then, after that book, I have just found that I enjoy the challenge and the constraint of form so much that it's my preferred, way to write. So when I begin a poem, I ask myself, what's the best form for this poem?
Nice.
Is this something that needs repeating lines? Is this something that is going to work better if it is concise and tight? you know, what can you sustain over a sestina, you know?
Right.
And so that's, you know, that's the second thing I think of. What's the form?
That's so
And
great.
if there's no traditional form I feel comfortable with, and I do go to free verse and I create my own form for that particular.
Yes.
So, that's just become a part of my process. But I always have to laugh about it because, of course, at first I scoffed at the idea of being constrained in my poetry.
That is so
Good.
great. That is so great. And now you're just like, no, like I want to do this. This is the best. This is the go-to way now. That is so wonderfully ironic, but that is just so great, Antoinette. I love I love your story of the journey of that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And it gets you just kind of like extra excited because I'm kind of you know, I write mainly in free verse. I do write in form here or there, and it just I find when I do that, it kind of pushes me a little further. It packs an extra punch, and it is really so exciting. And my late mentor, the great Kim Bridgeford, she almost always wrote in form. She also started out free verse and then wrote almost exclusively in form, many sonnets and sestinas, villanelles, etc. And you know, when I listen to you, if she were here right now, she would be woo, just in love with what you're doing. Antoinette, just incredible work, incredible work. Chris, I haven't let you get a word in edgewise here. I'm just gushing.
Oh, you know, I'll just let the poets go at it. It's fine.
He's the fiction half of the show, the prose side.
I work on the dark side. You guys do the poetry. No, I agree because you know I you know I teach creative writing here and there. And I've done a fair bit of that, you know, using poetry as well, and people bristle at it sometimes. You know, people who are not who won't really consider themselves poets. You know, for 10 years I had a writing workshop in prison, as you know, Katie, and you know we did a lot of poetry exercises and stuff like that, and guys would be like, you know, what is this iambic pentameter thing? You know, it's like, what is up with that? And I'd say, well, first of all, most of you guys, you know, you're like, you know, all the lyrics to, you know, the rap songs and what have you, and you're really good at it. I mean, just like, listen to that. First of all, listen to that rhythm going on there. And I mean, there's a lot of rules that they're breaking, but there's a lot of rules that they're going on with. Number one. Number two, when you limit yourself that way, quote unquote, you open up so many doors that you would never open up. Say, okay, you have only so many syllables to work with. Now you got to find another way to say it. And they, you know, they'd scratch their heads and say, I don't know about that. But then they would come up with this amazing stuff. And, you know, I'd see it happen over and over and over again. And
It's so cool.
I just think it's, you know, it's one of those things that's counterintuitive. You think it's chains holding you down, but it's really
it makes you paradoxically like more creative because you're like, okay, I need to find a way to get to what I'm saying while having it work in this form without having it sound inauthentic. And you know, it ends up being like an awesome journey. And then when you have the finished product, it's like, ooh, it's awesome. It's awesome. Right? That is so cool.
Amazing.
So cool.
And, you know, Antoinette, you're on fire tonight, and thank you so much.
Thank you
for being here with us in our humble little live stream that we do. It's an honor to have you here.
A great night. I mean, you know, like I said, I was crying in the beginning. You know, I love the authentic voice of the young person in Lynne's book. I loved the voice of that young girl. I'm like, yeah, I like her. Yes, this is like a perfect grouping of writers.
I love it. I love it. What a fantastic evening we had. One more round of applause for Beth Marie Reed, Lynne Heinzmann, and CT Poet Laureate Antoinette Brim-Bell.
Thank
Um,
you.
Thank you so much to all of our incredible guests this evening. Thank you so much to our amazing audience. And thank you, Chris.
And thank you, Katie,
Thanks.
my partner in crime, my partner in rhyme.
Partner in rhyme.
Read
That one.
for all these years. And,
Oh my gosh.
and we're going to see people hopefully in person at our open mic on Saturday. I keep saying Saturday.
Friday.
Friday the 25th
August 25th.
in South Norwalk. Eco Evolution, 7 p.m. Be there. It's free. And you're going to see some amazing stuff. And you're going to hear some amazing stuff. Nobody knows ever what the hell is going to happen at these things. And it's always a blast.
We always have incredible features and amazing surprises, such an incredible local community. So please come on down. And we will be posting very soon this week about our new seasonal sign up for the stream. It's going to be amazing. So don't be shy. Get your name on there. If you have something to share with us, or if you have a book coming out, or have something being published and you want to be on one of our seasonal streams, that will be happening once per season now. It's going to be amazing. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you again, Antoinette, and everybody. Have a good night.